There was a time when violence needed proximity, a body in a room, a hand that could reach, a threat you could hear. Not anymore. Today, violence has bandwidth. It travels through screens, it multiplies through clicks. It learns, it adapts, it upgrades. There was also a time when violence needed a witness. Now it needs an audience. And the audience, scrolling, watching, pausing for a second longer than we should. We like to believe the internet changed the world. It didn't. It revealed it. This is no longer chaos, it's coordination. We need to stop calling this toxic internet culture because that phrase still makes it sound accidental. What we are witnessing now is organized, calculated, scaled, engineered. Welcome back to the Personal Lens, where we explore the political through the personal. This is Jayanti, and today's episode is not about online toxicity. Because that phrase is a lie we tell ourselves to make this feel smaller. What we are looking at is a system where misogyny is no longer reactive. It is planned, distributed, industrial, and if you think that sounds extreme, then you haven't been paying attention. This episode is not just a continuation of a last episode on digital patriarchy. This is an escalation because something has changed. We are no longer dealing with scattered trolls or anonymous abuse. We are dealing with systems, platforms, communities, economies, entire ecosystems built around the humiliation, violation, and control of women. And if you think that sounds extreme, let's talk about what's being called the Rape Academy. The sheer intensity, brutality, and the scale of what I was reading forced me to pause and step away before I could even begin writing this episode. Because some revelations are so deeply unsettling, they don't just disturb you intellectually. They shake you emotionally and demand not just analysis, but a moment of reckoning, and I needed time to recover from the initial shock before turning that horror into words. 62 million visits. A website often referred to as a rape academy where men gather not to confess violence, but to learn it. Structured discussions, instructional threads, peer validation, not whispers. Documentation, men exchanging methods, how to isolate, how to manipulate, how to silence. And the most chilling part, it doesn't feel chaotic, it feels organized. Because this is not about impulse, this is about process. Let's be precise about what this means when violence becomes teachable. It becomes repeatable. And when it becomes repeatable, it becomes scalable. And when it becomes scalable, it stops being individual crime and starts becoming collective culture. So, no, this is not a disturbing corner of the internet. This is what happens when patriarchy is given tools and told optimize. 62 million visits. Let that number sit with you. Not 62,000, not 6.2 million, 62 million. A platform where men don't just fantasize about violence, they teach each other how to do it. Step by step guides, field reports, ratings, advice columns, not hidden in some obscure corner of the dark web, but accessible, searchable, thriving. This is not defiance, this is demand. Because platforms don't grow to 62 million visits on curiosity alone. They grow because there is a market, because there are users, repeat users. And here's the uncomfortable truth, this isn't just about bad men. This is about a culture that has normalized entitlement to women's bodies so deeply that it now requires infrastructure. There is a tendency to respond to things like this with disbelief. This can't be real, this is exaggerated, this is just a fringe group. But let's confront that instinct because denial is convenient. If it's fringe, we don't have to examine it. If it's rare, we don't have to fear it. If it's extreme, we don't have to see ourselves in the system that produced it. But 62 million visits is not fringe. This is traffic. There is engagement, there is participation, which means that this isn't just about the men posting, it's about men watching, the men reading, the men learning silently. And silence is not neutrality, silence is audience. Think about that shift. Violence is no longer spontaneous, it is learned, practiced, improved, shared. Like a skill, like a craft, like a course. And the internet didn't create this mindset, it scaled it. From locker rooms to laboratories. Remember when we were shocked by the boys' locker room? Teenage boys sharing photos talking about assault like it was a joke. We called it disturbing. But we still treated it like an anomaly, a one off. We were wrong. Because what we are seeing now is not locker room. It's a laboratory where misogyny is refined, tested, dictated in real time. Telegram groups, Reddit threads, private Discord servers, spaces where deepfake tools are exchanged like tutorials. Success stories of harassment are celebrated. Women are categorized, targeted, tracked. There are spreadsheets, lists, location based targeting. This is no longer individual behavior. This is collective intelligence applied to abuse. And if that sounds like tech startup language, it should. Because structurally, it's the same logic. Identify a problem, build tools, scale users, optimize outcomes. Except here the problem is women's autonomy. Let us now talk about the new weapon, AI without ethics. But first, let us be clear on this that technology didn't create this. It merely removed the unnecessary friction. Because there's a dangerous narrative that blames technology, AI, platforms, anonymity. But let's be clear technology didn't create misogyny, it removed its limitations. Earlier, violence required proximity, risk, effort. Now it requires device, an internet connection, and intent. And intent is abundant. AI tools now allow instant deepfakes, voice cloning, identity replication, not in hours, in minutes. And here's where it gets colder. The barrier to harming someone is now lower than the barrier to understanding the harm, which means people can participate in violence without ever fully confronting it. And that's how it spreads quietly, efficiently, invisibly. In the last episode, we spoke about deepfakes. Now they are easier, faster, cheaper. You no longer need technical skill, you need intent. One photo, that's it. A classmate, an ex, a stranger on Instagram, and within minutes, she can be turned into content. Pornographic, humiliating, viral. We've already seen this play out in cases like the Assam deepfake scandal. But here's what's changed it's no longer only revenge, it's recreation too now. Men are now creating content not because they know the woman, but because they can, because the barrier has disappeared. And when something becomes easy, it becomes common. And when it becomes common, it becomes invisible. So, why this feels personal? Because it is. Let me ask you something. Have you ever hesitated before posting a picture, adjusted your caption, deleted a comment before sending it, thought twice before expressing an opinion? That's not insecurity. That's the part we don't say out loud enough. Most women haven't experienced the worst forms of digital violence, but almost all women have prepared for them. That hesitation before posting, that second guessing of a caption, that instinct to delete something bold, that's not overthinking, that's survival. Because you don't need to be attacked to be controlled, you just need to know that you could be. And once you know that, you start adjusting, shrinking, anticipating. And that's how power works best, not through constant force, but through constant possibility. That's conditioning, that's digital patriarchy and working exactly as intended. Because control doesn't always look like direct violence. Sometimes it looks like self censorship, silence, withdrawal, women shrinking themselves online to avoid becoming targets. Meanwhile, the perpetrators, they expand, they organize, they build communities. So the internet becomes unequal in the most insidious ways. One group becomes louder, the other becomes quieter. And then we call it freedom of expression. Well, that brings us to the illusion of platform neutrality. Let's talk about platforms because they will tell you we are just hosting content. But that's not true. Platforms decide what gets seen, what goes viral, what gets removed, what gets ignored. Algorithms are not neutral. They are trained on engagement and outrage. Harassment, sexualized content engages. Which means the system doesn't just allow misogyny, it rewards it. So when misogynistic content spreads, it's not slipping through the cracks, it's moving with the current. Let that sink in. The system is not failing to stop abuse, the system is optimizing for it. Because outrage keeps people scrolling, and scrolling is profit. We've seen this with everything from hate speech amplification to harmful recommendation loops, and yet accountability remains diluted. Policies do exist, enforcement doesn't, because moderation is expensive and outrage is profitable. Let us now talk about the psychological shift, desensitization. Here's the most dangerous part. It's not just that violence exists, it's that it no longer shocks us the way it should. We scroll past rape threats, leaked videos, harassment threads like it's just content. Because repetition breeds normalization and normalization breeds acceptance. This is the part that should scare us the most. Not the existence of violence, but our response to it, or the lack of it. We hear about a deepfake scandal and move on. A harassment campaign and scroll past. A platform failure and shrug because it's everywhere, because it's constant, because outrage has a shelf life and systems like this rely on that. They don't need you to agree to it. They just need you to stop reacting. So the question is no longer why is this happening? The question is why are we getting used to it? And who pays the price? Always the same people: women, queer individuals, marginalized communities. But more specifically, women who speak, women who dissent, women who refuse to comply. Because digital patriarchy isn't just about hatred, it's about punishment. Punishment for visibility, punishment for autonomy, punishment for existing outside the control. We keep asking, how do we make the internet safer? But that question assumes safety was the goal. It wasn't. The internet was built for speed, engagement, scale. And anything that fuels these things survives, even if it harms, especially if it harms. So the real question is not about safety, it's about intent. What kind of world are we willing to participate in? Because every click, every share, every moment of silence is participation. From desire to entitlement to instruction, let's trace the evolution. Because this didn't begin here, it began with jokes. Boys will be boys, locker room talk, casual objectification. Then it moved to entitlement, the idea that women's bodies are accessible, debatable, available for commentary. Then came anger, when access was denied, when women spoke, when boundaries were asserted, and now we are here: instruction. How to get away with it, how to bypass consent, how to avoid consequences. This is not just escalation by accident, this is escalation by permission. Every time misogyny was dismissed as humor, we built the foundation. Every time harassment was ignored, we reinforced it. And now we are watching the final form: violence systematized. So, what now? Let's be clear, this is not a problem that will solve itself because it is not a glitch, it is a feature. So, the response cannot be passive, it has to be structural. Legal frameworks need to evolve faster than technology. Platforms need to be held accountable, and not just morally, but financially. Digital literacy needs to include consent, not just safety, but beyond policy. There is something else: refusal. Refusal to normalize, refusal to look away, refusal to accept this as just how the internet is. The internet did not invent patriarchy, but it has given it speed, scale, anonymity, efficiency, and now organization. This is no longer random hate. This is infrastructure. And the question we need to ask is not, is the internet safe for women, but who is it being made safe for? Because safety is never neutral. It is designed, and right now, it is not designed for everyone. And mind you, this is not a broken system. Broken systems fail. This one is working exactly as it was allowed to, exactly as it was tolerated to, exactly as it was normalized to. So, no, this is not shocking. It is consistent with everything we ignored before it reached this scale. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Do leave your thoughts and comments on it in the comment section or in the email provided in the description. This is the personal lens where we don't just look at the world, we look at what we've accepted within it. If this made you uncomfortable, good, sit with that. Because discomfort is often the beginning of awareness, and awareness is where resistance begins. We'll be back with more of such conversations. Till then, keep looking through the personal lens.